This podcast is brought to you by patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. Head there to check out exclusive podcasts like Talking Futurama, Talk King of the Hill, the What a Cartoon Movie podcast, and tons more.
I heartily endorse this event or product.
Ahoy hoy everybody, and welcome to Talking Simpsons, the annoying podcast that used to be cute and funny. I'm your host, proud Bonerland citizen Bob Mackey, and this is our chronological exploration of The Simpsons. Who is here with me today as always?
Hey, it's Henry Gilbert, and if you don't like it, you can go to Russia.
Who do we have on the line?
No, it's not the Booger Man. It's Will Menaker from Treehouse.
Hey.
And this week's episode is Treehouse of Horror 2.
It's moving! It's alive! Oh, that fellow at Radio Shack said I was mad. Well, who's mad now?
This episode originally aired on October 31st, 1991, Halloween, and as always, Henry will tell us what happened on this mythical day in real world history.
Oh boy, Bobby, The People Under the Stairs by Wes Craven tops the box office. The Perfect Storm attacks the Northeast Seaboard, and that causes the Halloween blizzard in Minnesota and Wisconsin. And Ted Turner buys the Hanna-Barbera Company and all of its films. So,
well, we have Mr. Movie Mindset himself on the podcast, Will Menaker. Will, have you seen The People Under the Stairs?
Not in a long time, but I think, yes, I have seen People Under the Stairs.
It's a good creepy idea that someone lives under your stairs and fucking with you.
Well, you see, the people under the stairs are actually good people. You see, it's a class allegory because the rich people steal poor people and keep them under the stairs.
That's right.
Just like the man does to us.
Yeah.
That Parasite guy, he should pay some royalties to Wes Craven.
Yeah.
Junho, you're being put on notice. Talking Simpsons, Treehouse of Horror.
and yeah, that Perfect Storm, I didn't live in the areas affected by it, but I then saw that movie. I saw the movie several years later, the George Clooney, Mark Wahlberg Perfect Storm film, which I didn't know was based on a real thing until my mom was taking me and my brother to it, and she's like, well, yeah, it's based on a real thing. They all die. And I was like, you spoiled it. You spoiled it, Mom. I didn't know. And now I've spoiled it for all you listeners too.
So unlike the rest of us suckers who saw that movie and were like, well, I mean, Mark Wahlberg's definitely getting home to his family, right? I mean, for sure.
I haven't seen the movie.
There's no way.
I haven't seen it, but I know one of the descriptors on the rating is intense weather depictions or something like that.
Oh, really?
That's one of the reasons why it's rated PG-13.
It delivers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it delivers. It is some incredibly intense depictions of weather.
Will, do you recall, you were living in the Northeast Seaboard area. Do you recall any bad storms on this 1991 Halloween?
Don't have any recollection of just anything before 2013.
So I'll do my best here. I mean,
I do remember some big blizzards in New York around that era, but not on Halloween, 1991.
And Ted Turner buying the Hanna-Barbera Company, that would lead to the creation of the Cartoon Network because he owned all these cartoons. So that's where they're going to go live on a whole cable channel.
The expiration date on these cartoons was past due, I think. Kids would not watch any of these things past maybe like 1996. So they had to start making actual original programming like Dexter's Lab and Powerpuff Girls and all those things. So I don't know where these live outside of Boomerang now.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Kudos to the Hanna-Barbera Company for really breaking new ground in depicting people running in cartoons. You have to have sort of a wind-up where you run in place for a little bit and your legs go and then your body catches up to it. That was a Hanna-Barbera signature, hopefully not adulterated by Mr. Ted Turner.
It has to sound like bongos, too. It has to be that.
Yeah. We've gone through like a very fun cycle with these characters where 90s is the last time you could appreciate them sincerely. And then 2000s we had like the Gen X Adult Swim version of all of them where they're all like alcoholics and they all are impotent and have drug problems and are divorced. And now we're back to respecting them again because there's the Jellystone show on HBO Max where it's like, no, you love these characters. It's Augie Doggy and Doggy Daddy. They're back and they have antics now and some of them are gay too.
And gender swaps.
Oh, okay.
Jabberjaw's a girl now, so This is
Well, they got my letters.
Droopy Dog has long been, highlighting depression and mental health.
it's true.
He's a real advocate.
Yeah.
But yes, joining us today is Will Menaker of the Chapo Trap House podcast. Welcome to the show, Will.
Glad to be here.
Will, we've had on your Chapo pals. We've had on Matt. We've had on Chris Wade.
We've had on people from the Chapo extended universe,
Yes,
even.
yeah, and I mean, you are always quick with a good Simpsons reference on the show. We know you're a Simpsons enjoyer as well. I mean, was that a big part of your childhood?
Oh my God, it's like the only part of my childhood. It was like, I watched The Simpsons like every day after school on Fox. It would be like, I think like 7 to 8. They'd do 2 episodes back to back. I'd watch that. I watched like every Sunday with my dad, the new episodes. The Simpsons were like a just foundational part of my childhood and my life. And, it's a joy to be here on the, the premier Simpsons podcast, paying tribute to and documenting what I regard, without a moment's hesitation or qualification as the finest example of American popular culture ever produced.
Absolutely.
Wow, man, that is high praise. I agree. We wouldn't do the show if we didn't agree with that.
It's nice when the guest is around our age and has the exact same history as us with The Simpsons, so there's not a lot to go over. Just like, yes, we all did the same thing in the 1990s.
We all did the Bartman.
No, it's just like the Simpsons of that era, like the classic era of The Simpsons, just really forms just like the fundamental architecture of my brain and memories. Really, is just like it's like the blueprints are all The Simpsons.
And I mean, did it inform you politically any growing up?
I think so. I mean, not in any kind of like profound moment of realization, because I don't really view it as like all that political of a show. I mean, it's a loving satire of American culture, but I do think it's just like as a kid, like when you first when you get the sort of like the entry level quality of the jokes, and before you really like imbibe any of like the deep cuts and references and just like truly how smart and wonderful the writing is. I think kids just appreciate it because it's like, yeah, it's the Bart Simpson thing, like eat my shorts, but like more just Homer. Like it's a depiction of like that, like every authority figure in your life is totally full of shit and has no idea what they're doing. And I think kids just instinctively understand that to be the truth of the world. And I think it's important to learn that as early as possible to avoid, severe breakdowns or cognitive dissonance later in life as you get disappointed with the fact that like everyone you think is in charge and knows what they're doing is absolutely as clueless as you are.
And Bob mentioned it before, you are a mastermind of movie mindset. And I mean, did Simpsons? I know for Bob and me, we watched a lot of classic movies in our youths first to understand a reference on Simpsons. Did that lead you into the world of movies more?
Yeah, no, I mean, like it was like, I mean, one follows the other. It's sort of a chicken and the egg thing, but like it was just sort of like as I began to watch like more serious adult movies or just read like adult books and literature, like it opens up a whole new world of like of the like the contextual layers of The Simpsons, like I mean, just like the realization of just how many Stanley Kubrick references are in the classic era of The Simpsons is it's just one of those rewarding things that like like it's what makes The Simpsons so immortal, is just how infinitely rewatchable like the classic era really is. Like there's always something funny, and there may even be something that you didn't even realize in an episode that you've seen probably 30 times before.
I mean, do you feel a particular love for the Halloween classics like this one?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm really glad I got to do a Treehouse of Horror with you guys, because I think like the Treehouse of Horror episodes are like perennially among the best episodes, or my favorite in The Simpsons. And I just really love anything like kind of like the horror movie anthology format, like Creep Show or Tales from the Crypt or like the new VHS series. I think it's just like the horror genre lends itself so well to these little self-contained shorts and spooky stories. And like The Simpsons has really always just really excelled in the Treehouse of Horror episodes.
It's funny to think that until they started promoting this episode in like mid-October, it was not a known fact that this would be a regular feature of The Simpsons, that you would get a Halloween special every year. As far as we knew, they were just having fun in season 2, and they wouldn't do that ever again.
Mm-hmm. And the choice to make it a yearly thing was a big, I mean, that is a huge moment for the series too.
Right.
Yeah.
And like in the sort of the intro to this episode, where Marge comes out and she warns people not to watch it, it's sort of establishing that like, yeah, like this is now like this is the new standard. Like every Halloween we're gonna give you a special episode where like, you know, we're throwing the rules out the window. We're gonna get a little bit nutty with it, or the writers are gonna have a little bit of fun playing around.
You know, I don't remember what I dressed as for Halloween in 1991, but I do remember just, you know, cutting it short. I lived in Florida, so, you know, it was about to air, and I was just like, we have to get home. I don't care about any more of this. I don't even trust that Dad is going to tape this correctly, Mom. We just have to get home now and see it live, you know?
Yeah, that was my experience. I have a lot of my memories growing up are of watching TV like any well-adjusted person. This episode in particular, because I remember it was Halloween night, of course, and we were trick-or-treating with a friend of my mom's from work and her kids, and after trick-or-treating, they came over to watch The Simpsons with us. But the mom was a Maude Flanders type, and The Simpsons was a no-go in her household, and it was a real, like, I don't know about this kind of, attitude from her. And I remember enjoying this, but hearing her just constantly scoffing in the background while, you know, all the kids were just howling with laughter. One disgusted parent was just thinking, oh my God, my kids have been activated. They're going to want to see this now at home, and I can't do anything about it.
No, and like, and you know, like the intro with Marge plays off that so well. I mean, I think that was like, it's so funny to think back, like how controversial The Simpsons were. And it was mostly because Bart was the breakout figure. And like, I think there was this real fear that like it's undermining the authority of parents to have this lovable rapscallion say, eat my shorts or don't have a cow or something. And, you know, I mean, that's like such a huge part of my childhood. And it was also like, it's so important to me because like of how much my dad also loved The Simpsons. And it was such a kind of like, it built so much like trust and love between us that like here was this, you know, show for kids that like my dad, who, you know, I looked up to as like a very literate, like, you know, authoritative figure, you know, embraced as and thought was as funny as I did, and like probably even liked it more than I did, at least initially.
Yeah. I think that, you know, my mom too, when I think of even just this episode, I think of seeing it with my mom and her saying like, well, this is a reference to that, or her explaining references to me, like, or what a mammogram is as well. Because I was like, what's that?
Yeah. When I heard that mom scoffing, and I know her name, I won't dox her. When I heard that mom scoffing, I thought, I'm so glad my mom is at least this cool to enjoy The Simpsons with me.
Yeah.
No, it's one of the proudest moments of my youth is like as later iterations of like, you know, cartoons that became very controversial is like when Beavis and Butthead came out, and that was like a whole nother level of, you know, parental hysteria, and like this is like a new level of like the degradation of America's youth. I remember I was with like I was at like a Thanksgiving, and my uncle was just complaining about Beavis and Butthead and talking about what a disgrace it is and how they'll never let their kids watch it. And my dad just out of nowhere totally surprised him by saying, "Oh, like I think it's a brilliant work of art, and I adore it." And I remember being so proud of my dad. He was like, my uncle was dumbfounded, was speechless.
Wow, that's beautiful.
It's something that, you know, grotesque and, you know, it's apocalyptic by the standards of like the mid '90s.
You know, my mom couldn't follow me to Beavis and Butthead. She was like, I can't. She appreciates Simpsons, but she was like, no, Beavis and Butthead too, a step too far.
You see, my mom enjoyed my Butthead impressions as a teen.
Oh,
so.
That's good. Well, you know, I think my mom did come around to it because by '96 she happily took us to the Beavis and Butthead movie. She did take us to that. So. But yeah, this episode is a true like Stone Cold classic. Like, it's gorgeous too, like one of the best animated ones too. Jim Reardon directed it, and he is a master of the series, especially of Treehouse ones. And then there's some great bits that are specifically animated by guys like Brad Bird or David Silverman to look like even better. And
it's directed by the writer of WALL-E.
That's right,
Jim Reardon.
Yeah, the Oscar-nominated writer of WALL-E, Jim Reardon. Yeah, and also, you know, if you got your DVDs handy, pull them out, because there are the original storyboards with Matt Groening's red line edits over them, and you can see, you know, there's some cut jokes in there. I'm not going to bore the listeners with every single cut joke, but there's a few biggies that I think Bob and I can mention. But
yeah, the different endings are the most interesting part of seeing those storyboards.
Yeah. And for instance, not on the storyboards is the intro of Marge warning everyone again. I think that was a late addition where like, let's just reuse the animation from the year before and just have a new thing.
Hello, everyone. Before last year's Halloween show, I warned you not to let your children watch, but you did anyway. Well, this year's episode is even worse. It's scarier, more violent, and I think they snuck in some bad language, too. So please, tuck in your children and... Well, if you didn't listen to me last time, you're not going to now. Enjoy the show.
And I mean, my mom definitely laughed at Marge saying, like, you didn't listen to me last year, you're not going to now. Like, my mom laughed of knowing, like, yes, I'm allowing this again. I am going to let my kids see this another time. I accept my blame in this. The episode begins then with a bunch of funny tombstones. We pass over Jim Morrison's grave, which like so much text on it, not made for standard definition screens.
No.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was like, I always try to clock the graveyard gags and like the opening credits to the Treehouse of Horrors one. There's one or two here that I felt was like, the rare moment of like a joke on The Simpsons that seems dated or like I didn't get the reference. And this one was Cajun cooking. And was this just like a fad in the early 90s for Cajun cuisine that had gone out of style by then?
You see, Will, at first I was worried that we would bore you by explaining every reference, but now I know we won't. Now, I was looking into this, and there were two big Cajun chefs in the 80s that popularized the cooking style.
Paul Prudhomme.
Paul Prudhomme was one of them, but also Justin Wilson. He's the I guarantee guy.
Yes. Yeah.
And it reached a peak by the late 80s. Like, I think it started really taking off in the early 80s. But yeah, I think they decided on the writing staff, people were kind of sick of Cajun cooking by 1991. Okay. So that explains, that is a dated reference. You're right.
Taking a little bit of the piss out of the Cajun people and their wonderful gumbos and jambalayas.
You were just in New Orleans, and it's Cajun cooking's alive and well.
I mean, like I said, like I mean, I think it's great. I mean, New Orleans is the best food in America. Certainly lived up to that reputation, at least on my trip. But it's funny to think that Cajun cooking was like a big enough fad to like just sort of like make fun of on The Simpsons.
I feel like there had to be 100 jokes on sitcoms in the 80s where the wife brings out like just a charred, blackened piece of meat that's smoking, and the husband says, "What the hell is this?" The wife says, "It's Cajun," and the audience erupts. I'm sure there were a million jokes like that.
My childhood connection to Cajun cooking was just that the Leatherhead on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was just an impression of the I guarantee guy.
That's right.
That was his entire character.
I think Darkwing Duck had one of those guys on it too.
Yes, yeah.
Another landmark thing in this episode, it's the first year with creepy credits. So last year we just had a creepy font. Mm-hmm. This year we get creepy credits and a creepy font. Next year the font gets even better, folks. So hold on to your pants.
It's funny, we're covering this alongside 2001's season, and after 9/11 they put a pause on the creepy credits for several years, and so this
Are you serious?
They did,
yeah. They did, out of respect.
Ghoulish names after 9/11? Oh, God.
At the very least, I think for 01 and 02 Halloween, they didn't do creepy names out of honor of...
Okay, 2001 Halloween, I can understand. It was like a month ago. So they don't want to do like, James Hell Brooks or Screaming Sam Simon. The country was still very traumatized. But a year after? Come on. It's time to laugh again, people. Rudy Giuliani went on Saturday Night Live like the week after and said you could laugh again. So, if it's good enough for America's mayor, it should be good enough for the... Fox Corporation.
Their production took so long they didn't get the news in time from Rudy Giuliani, I don't think. And also, first time this registered as the joke for me that the Walt Disney tombstone is frozen over because he's frozen in cryogenics. That's the joke.
That joke soon to be removed from the Disney Plus version.
Yes, yeah.
Mark my words.
It was apparently the Al Jean pitch of the creepy names because he is a big comic book nerd. He grew up with the EC Comics like Tales from the Crypt, and that had artists like Creepy Jack Kamen, and so they wanted fun names like that too. And the Peanuts characters run by Jim Reardon. He did a whole Bring Me the Head of Charlie Brown. That was the name of his student film about violent 80s action film starring the Charlie Brown kids.
It's basically just him as Taxi Driver, I think.
Yeah. And it was like Newgrounds before Newgrounds. You did like 20 years before Newgrounds. And also, I love all the quick cuts into the house of Homer watching TV. That's really great. And this is when Homer gets the news. Again, it flew over my head as a kid, a joke about the presidential primaries of 1992 coming up. And at the time I was looking this up, I'm sure, well, you know this, but yes, at the time in April 91 when they were writing this, April 16th is the date on the storyboards. H.W. Bush was viewed as unbeatable, like at an 89%
Wow.
favorability rating. Guys like Mario Cuomo, Al Gore, Joseph Robinette Biden, all of them were like, I don't even know if it's worth running. And so, by
And then one plucky governor from Arkansas would rise to the occasion.
by the time this aired, probably people were just thinking, well, it's either Jerry Brown or Jerry Brown's going to try to win, and he's not going to win. Like that's all it is. They never even heard of some hillbilly Arkansas governor back in Halloween '91. But yes, this also is when I learned as a kid that older kids can egg houses and just not even bother dressing up. I did not know such a scary thing about older kids.
You knew about the treats, but not the tricks.
Yes, yeah. So Homer's threatening to giving up his eggs, and great sound effect is the eggs smash the door as he turns around too.
I mean, great Foley all around, but I did enjoy that.
But the kids come home, and again, talk about first time I noticed something too, because this is much clearer in the storyboards. Bart's costume is an executioner, and his candy holder is a severed head. Like, it's part of his costume. It flies by so quick, you really can't register it in the show. But it seems dangerous to have a baby walk around in a full head mask of a witch. That just seems, a risk.
It would be like an escalation of Bart's Halloween costumes to go from an executioner in Treehouse of Horror 2 to, I believe, Alex from Clockwork Orange in Treehouse of Horror 3.
That's right.
That's correct.
Yes,
Season
yeah.
4. Yeah.
That's right. That was pushing the envelope there with the character. Yeah, Bart.
An executioner, he murders people on behalf of the state, and Alex and his droogs, murder and assault people just for fun. So Bart's getting more twisted as the years go on.
True. He's becoming more of an anarchist. But meanwhile, Lisa, very respectful costume of a totem pole of the Native Americans of the Pacific Northwest specifically. She makes sure it's not just an overall blanket tribute to them. But this is when it's time they look at their haul in our first clip.
Get a good haul this year?
Jackpot!
I'm very, very proud of you kids.
Would have gotten even more if Lisa could walk faster. I didn't select this costume for mobility. I wore to salute the noble Native Americans of the Pacific Northwest. Yeah!
Now, children, you can have one piece of candy tonight and save the rest for... If you eat too much, you'll have nightmares.
Oh, yeah. Everybody in the family's gonna have a bad nightmare tonight.
Oh, yeah. 3 bad nightmares.
I'd like to see that.
They do this even better in the softball episode, but I really love when the characters taunt fate of a story in
Yes.
it just so hard, where they're just like, but 3 bad nightmares, I'd like to see that. Ha ha ha. Also, when they're all eating the candy together, in the original storyboards, Homer has his head buried in the candy like a pig, just eating it mouth first. And that's where Groening wrote too much, like all caps, too much. There's a line that you can cross of making Homer too much of a food monster.
I mean, it was 30 years ago now, this episode, but it does bring me back to where Halloween used to be, and that's like trick-or-treating is happening at night, no one is inspecting candy. I guess there's a rule about eating one piece, which was never a rule in my family.
Yeah.
Just like, you're home now, I'm not looking at what you're doing.
Marge is just trying. She's trying to instill some boundaries, and the kids are just like, well, no, we're just eating it all right now. Like, I am going to get a stomachache and go to bed fucked up on candy.
That's it's the joy of Halloween, and like the one candy before bed. I think that was like on the night of Halloween. If your parents are enforcing that, God. Geez, you might as well not celebrate Halloween. But for the nights after Halloween, I think it was like a sort of a gentleman's code to have. You could have one piece of candy after dinner.
For me, Halloween candy was to be meticulously portioned out, of just that I would count it all in a hierarchy of like, all right, this is the best, second best, third, and do I want to go from the top or the bottom, and slowly eliminate them. I mean, on top of that, I had a brother, and so it's also about competition of who had the most, or like who still has it, and we would certainly not pool ours into a pile and share it like that as they do in this.
Yeah.
That's communism. Just, you got to reward individual entrepreneurship of trick or treating. You could do some horse trading. I'll give you like 6 of those rolls of like the tart hard candies for maybe one like miniature Milky Way or something like that.
Or my brother likes certain flavors of Starburst more than me. We can trade on that level. Also, this taught me as a kid that like, oh, your parents, they are giving out the candy, but they just eat it too. Like that's their bear candy to eat as they're minding the house. So yes, after that, there's a deleted scene of Lisa brushing her teeth very meticulously before bed because she's a good kid. They cut that. They're just like, let's just get straight to it. And though there's also a really good shot I wish they kept in where like they keep this where Bart and Homer have like a thought that will then influence their dream that'll happen like right before they go to sleep. In the deleted scene, Lisa's like looking out a window and sees a tree branch that kind of like as it fades out looks like the monkey paw.
Okay, yeah.
I kind of wish they kept that just to show like why does Lisa dream about the monkey paw with little I mean maybe she just read the famous book or one of the short story or one of the million things influenced by it.
I always forget this is a Lisa nightmare because the Bart nightmare is Bart's story. The Homer nightmare is Mr. Burns' story, but it's really a Homer story. But this is not the Lisa show in Act 1.
Not so much. Though I guess it's her dream that she believes world peace is unattainable. Perhaps like that's her.
No, that's why it's Lisa's nightmare because like it's the whole story is about how like the ironic fear beneath her sanctimonious do-gooderism.
That, you know what, you need an A-bomb or two. After all, it turns out, and she hates to think that.
The Simpsons will be right back.
This Halloween,
Get a good haul this year?
Yes, Bob.
something strange is happening to the Simpsons.
Every day, same old cat. I'll make it more interesting.
Is Bart turning into a monster with sinister powers?
Catch it from your side of the family. No monsters on my side.
Are aliens invading Springfield?
We can resolve our differences peacefully. Ow.
And what's happening to Homer? Is it trick or treat?
The Simpsons, Thursday at 8 on Fox 5.
Welcome to the break, everybody. It's Henry Gilbert, and I used my monkey paw wish to have our guest this week, Will Menaker. It was such a big honor to get the co-host of Chapo Trap House on this week's podcast for the very first time. We love Will Menaker, all of his work. What a great, nice guy he was to us, too. If you don't know Chapo Trap House, come on, check it out. And he's so funny on Twitter, too, at Will Menaker. But I have a feeling you know about that. Thank you so much again, Mr. Menaker. Also, a big thank you to our many awesome supporters at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. Talking Simpsons just passed its 5 whole years on Patreon, and me and Bob have only been able to do this as our full-time jobs for that half of a decade because of the support of subscribers on there. For $5 a month, they not only get to help us live our dreams, but they also get access to a monthly episode of Talking Futurama and Talk King of the Hill that you won't hear anywhere else, where you can hear me and Bob talk about another episode of Futurama and King of the Hill, and you get a whole back catalog of over 100 exclusive podcasts to there of us talking about Futurama, King of the Hill, as well as Mission Hill, The Critic, and our 10 favorite episodes of Batman, the animated series, plus a ton of other exclusives when you go digging into those 5 years of Patreon content. Check it all out again at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. But if you want something even nicer than a Milli Vanilli Chicken McNugget, you should sign up at the premium level for $10 a month at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. You get all those $5 things I just mentioned. But then you get a monthly What a Cartoon Movie podcast. In addition to that, me and Bob going super duper in depth. And when I say in depth, I mean over 5 hours most of the time, sometimes even over 6 hours, into animated feature films like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Toy Story 3, The Little Mermaid, South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, and that's just 4 that we've done in 2022. We have over 3 years of back catalog of us covering things as diverse as Akira, a Goofy movie, Beavis and Butthead Do America, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Kiki's Delivery Service, Millennium Actress, and tons more. You got to check out that entire back catalog for yourself just to see all the cool stuff you're missing out on, in addition to all the $5 stuff I just mentioned. Please check it all out for yourself once more at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons.
This is based on the 1902 short story horror classic called The Monkey's Paw, obviously, by W.W. Jacobs. It's all online. You can read this on the toilet. It's so short. Not that I did that, but it's a very short story. And apparently, Sam Simon wanted a very rude joke in this segment, in that he wanted the final finger of the monkey paw to be the middle finger, the last one to be unfurled. But they didn't want to do it because it would take a lot of money to get a retake if they changed the joke, and Fox wouldn't even let them blur it out. So there were limits to what they could do in 1991, but that was a Sam Simon idea that didn't make the final cuts.
Too bad. When I hadn't read it in a while, I read it before this. I've read the longer tweet threads, honestly, but it's a good little story, and it's just a million. It probably wasn't the first short story that was about ironic punishment or like a wish goes wrong or whatever, but the second chapter is just Pet Cemetery, actually.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even about the monkey's paw. It's kind of meaningless to it. This also sends them to Morocco, which Hank Azaria, the master of accents, all over the place with his great and accurate Moroccan accents.
Is another like a Homer joke, Morocco, Monaco, another like a sort of dated reference. Or like, if you're a kid watching this, like just sort of like just whoosh right over your head, and Homer goes like, "How could Princess Grace live in a place like this?" And then Lisa says, "Dad, that's Monaco," and he goes, "No."
Yeah, that can.
Says Grace, Monaco coming in. It's Homer's confused Morocco for Monaco.
Completely flew over my head as a kid. Yes, yeah. Speaking of, and also of things that don't make sense on an SD television, Lisa's shirt and he misspelled it too. But
yeah, I think this is the first time I actually bothered looking this up, because Lisa's shirt, you only see it once in the close-up. There's a reason that takes a long time to spell out for an animator who's working with like all these frames per second. But yeah, Lisa's shirt, I kissed the Balmoujalud, which I guess they mean the Baboujalud, which is a real thing. It's like a city gate in Fez, Morocco, but obviously it's a Blarney Stone reference.
Yes.
But you only see that shirt once, and I guess their dictionary or encyclopedia was faulty or something. But yeah, that is what Lisa's shirt means. She kissed the city gate.
I could see in a 1980s like pre-internet guidebook a localization of that then could have been spelled that way. Like they didn't have the internet like us to just like Google like what's a Baboujalud, and then it says like, did you mean Baboujalud? I'm probably butchering it myself.
I think you got it right.
You got it right. All right. But, I mean, look, I'm shocked they didn't have a Morocco mole reference in here. With all the boomers references in this. It's like, yes, I'm shocked there's not that. I also, as a kid, I love that saying, I can do that, but I don't wanna. Like, that is the perfect, like, little boy thing to say. But yes, Homer goes shopping and finds a real deal.
Yeah, what is this thing?
It is a monkey's paw dating back to Alal bin Abdallah. It has the power to grant wishes to its owner.
Oh, yeah? How much?
Sir, I must strongly advise you do not purchase this. Behind every wish lurks grave misfortune. I myself was once president of Algeria.
Come on, pal. I don't want to hear your life story. Paw me.
Ooh, Homer, where did you get that ugly thing?
Oh, you that little shop right over there. On your way, it was over there.
You'll be sorry.
And I was just thinking, in the next year's episode, Hank Azaria plays another shopkeeper selling cursed items.
That's true. Yes.
Yeah. And the gag here, where like he's like, "Hey, it was right over there," and then like it pans over and you see like a little dust devil like spinning away, and you're like, "Ooh, haunting." And he's like, "Oh wait, no, it's over there," and it's like it's still the same guy, same place, and he's like, "Hey, it's still me." And then Hank Azaria doing the voice, like, you're totally right, Bob. This is a rehearsal of like the perfection of that joke in next year's Treehouse of Horror, where he buys the cursed Krusty doll, and the whole back and forth about that's bad, that's good, that's bad, like, which is I think like when he says the sprinkles contain potassium benzoate, and then Homer just blanks him and he goes, that's bad. Probably, I think that may be my favorite gag ever on The Simpsons. Like The Simpsons, like the writers are like they were the master of just like taking a joke and then like pushing it past the limit of what you expect, and then giving you like a really stupid payoff that like is unexpected and just so satisfying.
And just the characters say like, "Can I go now?" Like just the characters
I'm done
tired
with
of
the
the comedy bit.
Yeah. I also like the very subtle comedic premise of a shopkeeper selling an item, but that says, "You must not buy this, sir."
Yes.
It's sitting on his thing for sale.
It's right there. And also just that it's like, I was once president of Algeria, and Homer's like, I don't want your life story, which I would assume that's a reference to the civil wars in Algeria. They went through a few presidents right before 1991, so I would guess that's the joke. Only in HD can you tell, like, oh, this guy's eyes are two different colors, and it's supposed to be a glass eye as well.
Oh, okay,
yeah. I also just love the very wacky, like, just his little hand motion, like, you'll be sorry. Like, that's so wacky and silly.
No lip sync.
And then we head to the Marrakesh Airport, which are really great, just like design on it. And I always love, it's a recurring joke, I love it every time, that there are many direct flights from like any place to directly to Springfield. Like just Marrakesh to Springfield direct flight.
And this Midnight Express parody, which I didn't get as a kid, and I only get now.
No, yeah.
Yeah, you didn't get that reference to being sodomized in Turkish prison when you were a kid?
Nope. Yeah.
No, but like Tiny Toons had jokes about Turkish prisons.
Yes, yeah.
And things like that.
I think as more comedy went towards, American prison and sexual assault in it, I think that's when Turkish prison jokes kind of went away. Like, we can just joke about American prisons. You don't need to do a Turkish prison for gay sex jokes in prisons. But yeah, I mean that scene. I hadn't seen the movie in forever. I just pulled up the scene from it, and it is a really great, just like harrowing, tense scene when the guy gets caught at the airport. Just his fear as he's walking onto the plane, with tons of heroin, and just he's like, all right, yep, I'm making it on the plane. Just like he gets just stopped, he's like, I'm ruined. Like my life is over. Just the look on his face, and
the show lost a lot when it lost Alf Clausen like 5 or 6 years ago. But boy, I mean, this is an example. Like his Midnight Express parody music. His sound like music, it's so good.
Yes,
he had to work in so many styles, but it sounded so good. I listened to the scene like 3 or 4 times.
It's really, really good. So yes, we head back. The family is wanting to make their choices. Bart wants X-ray specs like he's seen on the back of a comic book. Lisa wants world peace. I love that Marge says, Homer, there's something I don't like about that severed hand. But it's Maggie who gets to make the first wish, which they think is for a luxury car, but it's just for a pacifier, just for a brand new pacifier. Maggie's wish has no downside, actually. Like she gets to make a pure wish with no ironic takebacks or anything.
We don't know what the pacifier tastes like.
That's true, but she seems fine with it. But yeah, so then the next wish, of course, is for the Simpsons to be rich and famous. And I gotta say, like, this is the funniest bit of this act, I think, to me, because it's just...
Yeah, no, it definitely is.
It's about the actual curse of fame. It's not... In the original story, they wish for 200 pounds, and they get it because their child dies, and it's given to them as, like, a write-off of, like, well, your son died in the machinery, and the company is going to give you $200 for your grief or whatever. 200 pounds for your grief. In this case, it's like, no, the punishment is everybody backbites you all the time and hates you behind your back, and they're just sick of you. Like, you get to be rich and famous, but everybody's tired of your antics.
They were saying on the commentary that they were feeling the backlash against The Simpsons. They were seeing articles that are saying, The Simpsons out, Ren and Stimpy in, things like that.
Yeah. But yeah, like at least too, like I think my favorite gag of this episode is the get a mammogram man. The Bart Simpson, like the billboard reminding women to get a mammogram. And then like there's another one, the Simpsons Calypso album.
Yes, yeah, the Simpsons.
What was it called? Remember what was it called in the episode?
Oh, the Simpsons Go Calypso.
Simpsons Go Calypso.
Yeah.
Okay, like I could be wrong, but like I think that may be a reference to the Calypso album that actor Robert Mitchum cut. Robert Mitchum did an album of Calypso songs called Calypso Makes Me Feel So.
That I bet you that has to be that seems like such the corniest thing for a celebrity to do of all possible albums, like the Simpsons. I mean, they're already dumping on themselves for they cashed in the Christmas before with Simpsons Sings the Blues, and so they're like, well, the sequel album will be the Simpsons Go Calypso. Like to know that I didn't know Robert Mitchum did a Calypso album. That's great. I wonder if Man Smart Woman Smarter is on that. Yeah,
I like that. I like the subtle admission. Like, yeah, that record we did suck, didn't it?
It sucked.
We're sorry.
You were right to see
And
it as
also,
a
like,
cash
you know,
in.
and
Also, like commenting on like both the bootleg and then officially licensed, just like the extreme explosion of like Bart Simpson T-shirts and merchandise that like saturated the country, and like in the very early days of The Simpsons, before like The Simpsons was really The Simpsons, in my opinion, it was like when it was a Bart show, and then when it became a Homer show is when it truly became great. But like Bart was like the merchandise to death immediately, like right out of the gate.
Our pal of the show, Bart of Darkness, he's a Simpsons merchandise collector, and he posts like pictures of all of the old merch constantly. He's always finding new stuff. One common thing the show really nails about that old merch, a lot of the Bart stuff, I would say 90% of it is him saying blank, comma, man.
Yes.
So the ultimate Bart merchandise is a shirt that says hi, man.
Hi, man. Yes.
Yeah. And you know what? So during the Biden-Trump debates, this is relevant, by the way, like Biden started getting like catchphrases based off those debates. I think like "Will you shut up, man" was one of them, and "Come on, man." So when I went to the Biden website and I posted on Twitter like $30 for this, what a ripoff, and it was Biden saying something, comma, man.
Oh man, that's great. I remember that.
And by the way, that is director Rich Moore throwing away the $18 T-shirt.
Yes, yeah.
He will be recolored to be a black man for the Nerds episode.
For seeing Homer Goes to College.
Yeah.
But actually, you speak of Bart of Darkness. I believe it was him who commissioned like a real life version of that High Man shirt, and briefly had it on sale. I still have mine.
I do,
and I wear it proudly. I think actually that's the shirt I'm sorry. In some of our official art, I'm drawn wearing that shirt as well. But just Bart, especially Bart with his like the teeth exposed at the top as he's saying it, like looking extra stupid. Like that's so good.
And back to the mammogram thing, that is based on a real Fox billboard. So on the Fox lot, there was a Bart billboard where the message would change every day, and the message would be something, man. And the writers would write, lines for Bart to say, like clever lines. They would put them up every day, but soon it turned into like "Happy birthday to Fox executive like Sherry Gunther, man," or whatever. So one day, writer John Vitti came up with "increased productivity, man," and James L. Brooks got to the Fox lot and thought it was real and was very angry about it. So that's a great little story. There was no Bart billboard when we were there.
No, it sadly didn't stay up. I love too. You see, if you look on those original storyboards, Matt Groening even writes under the note. His note is like, make it more like the real one. Like, make it sure it looks like the exact one. The Gilded Truffle. It's the first time they go there. It is their constant. As if the Simpsons go to a fancy restaurant, it's the Gilded Truffle. And also, I just love the line. At first they were cute and funny, but now they're just annoying. Like, just such a funny.
Okay, no more fooling around. Pa, this is Bart. I wish for the Simpsons to be rich and famous.
Now you're talking.
Woohoo! Look, everybody! My purse exploded!
Come on, everybody. We're going to the fanciest restaurant in town.
I'm terribly sorry. I have absolutely nothing until June. The Simpsons. Right this way, please.
Homer, maybe fame and fortune aren't as bad as they say.
If I hear one more thing about The Simpsons, I swear I'm going to scream.
At first they were cute and funny, but now they're just annoying.
$18 for this? What a ripoff.
Man smart.
The woman is smarter.
Man smart.
The woman is.
Man, this thing's really getting out of hand.
And yes, the song "Man Smart, Woman Smarter," it's a classic song, first debuted in 1937, Calypso classic by King Radio. It's been covered by a million people: Ricky Ricardo, Harry Belafonte, Joan Baez, the Carpenters. In the 80s, the Grateful Dead would do a jam version of it at many of their concerts. But what I was shocked with when I finally watched a bunch of those covers, this Simpsons episode is a lie. The title is "Man Smart, parenthetical Woman Smarter," but the song is "That's Right, the woman is smarter." That's right. So that's the actual version of the song. I couldn't find any. Even the 36 version does not say "man smart, woman smarter." The main spirit of the song is it actually is not about how women are smarter than men in a good way. It's that they are more conniving and make a man work all day. That is the way that a woman is smarter. So but yeah, I mean, it's such a great cheesy 70s classic. Like, I think the Carpenters cover of it is one of the funniest to me, because they kind of strip all the calypso, and I love the Carpenters, but they strip in their
They get rid of all that culture.
Yeah,
throw it out the window.
Yes, any of that. It's the whitest and safest version of the song you've ever heard. But yes, after this, it's time for Lisa to make a wish, and this is when she's told she was very selfish to make a wish for world peace. We get a reference to the Falkland Islands that Argentina
would not be the first one.
Yes, yeah.
That is another one of my all-time favorite Simpsons gags, is when Krusty has playing the reruns of his show, and they're like, "Don't worry, no one will notice." And then he's like, "Children, the Falklands have just been invaded. The Falklands, I repeat, the Falklands are a series of islands off the coast of Argentina."
He pulls down a map. He was ready for this.
Oh man.
Yeah.
The one American who cared about the Falklands.
And there's a fun character in this scene, thanks to what I think is just like a painting error. So they needed characters to fill this fake UN. And one of them in the upper right corner, Agnes Skinner with a mustache. Check it out. Every time you watch this episode, you won't be able to not stare at the upper right corner of the screen.
Never noticed it before, Bob. That was a great spot by you. And yeah, then we get to see, the Pentagon turns into a mall. Danger becomes garden.
The Five Corners Mall.
Five Corners Mall. That's great. We should, honestly, that should happen. We like a better use of space. And yeah, also everybody throwing their guns into the furnace, including Krusty, like just like, won't be needing this.
He's got throwing stars.
And then it kind of turns into the classic Coke commercial, but they can't use the music. But
they kept trying to with that reference. So the wiki is wrong. The Wikipedia is wrong. I'm going to call them both out on this. They say this next part is a reference to the Twilight Zone 1986 episode, A Small Town for War. I don't see anything in common with it outside of the fact that aliens are mocking the idea of world peace. That's basically all I saw in common with it. And that's all I'll say.
Actually, I have a whole. Thank you for saying that, Bob, because I also went to the fandom Wikipedia for this episode, and I gotta say, I think that one is run by British people who all of their references are wrong. They're just like, oh, this is like this movie. It's like, this is not based on the commentaries or interviews or nothing. It's just like, this Monkey Paw thing, it's kind of like the movie Aladdin, which came out a year later. What the fuck are you, like, that's a bad, their reference page is unhelpful, like entirely unhelpful. I only double check it of like, is there ever a reference in this that I don't catch? But then I go to their reference page, is like all wrong. Like I'm calling you out, fan wiki on Simpsons stuff.
British Simpsons fans, boo. Irish Simpsons fans, thumbs up.
Oh yeah,
yes, yeah.
Love those memes. Those crazy cunts come up with. And I'm using that in the in the friendly way.
Yes, the British or the Irish. No, I think the Irish Simpsons Twitter. I love their memes, especially if it's just about mainly about pub culture crossing over with the Simpsons reference. Like, well, I don't understand this about Irish pub culture, but through the transitive property of this Simpsons reference, I understand it.
I like when they're when they're slagging off like an Irish political party that means nothing to me. They're like, oh wow, Fine Gael really is like Mr. Burns.
But yes, more so like out of The Day the Earth Stood Still, Kang and Kodos arrive, and this is when they learn. I mean, also too, what a great choice! Like they say on the commentary, they were 50-50 of like, do we bring Kang and Kodos back? Do we, they love the aliens in the first one, but they're like, do we have the aliens every time? And after the second appearance, they're like, yes, we have to have the aliens every time. They are the greatest.
Two big changes. There's no Sarek the Preparer, which is James Earl Jones.
Yep.
And also they lose the drool Foley, which I like, but I could see why they got rid of it. So when they appear in Treehouse of Horror 1, whenever they're on screen, you can hear the drool dripping down their faces and into their domes or whatever.
This time, it's just visual, yeah. But yes, here's Kang and Kodos' arrival.
People of Earth, we come to you in the spirit of hostility and menace.
Now, let's be reasonable. We can resolve our differences peacefully. Ow.
Your superior intellect is no match for our puny weapons.
Colonel, you've got to do something.
What do you want me to do? I'm a baker now.
They conquered us with a club. Guess we've saved an A-bomb or two.
Move along, humans.
This is all the Simpsons' fault.
Before I was just bored with their antics and their merchandise. Now I wish they were dead.
bored with their antics and merchandise.
I noted too that all 4 of the people in that lineup are all season 1 weirdos. So it's fun to see that.
This Colonel or whatever, he's one of those just like one line characters I want to know more about, like Hugh Jazz, the happiest man in Springfield. I just love his I'm a baker now.
He looks like he used to be a movie like an action star, and he's like, I'm a baker now. I can't do it. I guess Lisa's wish for world peace not only got rid of all the weapons, but also just the drive for self-defense. Like, even now they're just like, no, we can't do anything. I mean, too, I also love the shot of it crushing the Springfield statue, and that the head falls off because the head is still loose from Bart cutting it off. Like, it falls off as a separate part. Yeah, but
That's continuity. They really care about this, keeping the tight rules in this universe, which you got to appreciate.
And
one thing though, King and Kodos not as hands-on with their slavery as they would be in season 8, because back at home Bart's like, "That we're slaves. This paw sucks."
Yes.
And Ned says, "Hey, fellow slaverino."
Yeah.
So they're not actively really enforcing the slavery. It's more of an idea.
Yes. Yeah. No, you're right. In Citizen Kang, they get a lot more. The invasion is a bigger scale, that's for sure.
Yeah, they're carrying rocks and they're like shackled together. By the end of that, they're getting like literally whipped, and this one it's just sort of like they're being menaced and kind of pushed around by like a stick.
Yeah, it's like, man, like just. I also love the ow, like just the ow sound. But all right, let me tell you, that shot of Bart holding up the newspaper that says "Monsters OK Slavery Plan." I found an auction for that cell, and it went for $1,800. I simply couldn't go that high.
Fair.
But I was like, God damn it, that's such a good, like, just to see Bart. Also, the family is not behind it, so it is an incomplete cell setup. But still, to get to have a cell on my wall that has Bart with a newspaper that says "Monsters OK Slavery Plan." Like, what a great, just amazing headline. God, I love that so much. But
and it just underscores how like so many of the funniest gags on The Simpsons are totally visual. They're just it's just something that you see and read, or a sort of the texture of Springfield and the world they inhabit. Like, just the little details are often like really the funniest gags in any given Simpsons episode.
And here's another great joke here. Just Homer knows he is caught on to the ironic wishing, and he knows. He tries something that nobody in all those classic stories ever tries. A run-on sentence that you need with like just and. God, I mean, Homer's acting, Dan Kesselman is acting here, and all the posing on it is so great.
Geez, now we're slaves. This paw sucks.
Okay. I'll make a wish that can't backfire. I wish for a turkey sandwich on rye bread with lettuce and mustard. And I don't want any zombie turkeys. I don't want to turn into a turkey myself. And I don't want any other weird surprises. You got it? Hey. Not bad. Nice hot mustard. With bread. Turkey's a little dry. The turkey's a little dry. Oh, foul accursed thing! What demon from the depths of hell created thee?
Oh, man.
I needed to write no notes for that scene because it's all burned into my brain.
So perfect.
And in our revisiting of different seasons, we're running into a lot of famous freeze frames that became memes. And there's one in this scene. So when Homer is sampling the sandwich, there's a cutaway to Lisa and Marge. Marge is standing behind Lisa with her hand on Lisa's shoulder. And Lisa,
they're sort of grimacing at each other.
Yeah. And somebody online...
looking at each other, yeah.
Exactly. Somebody online, I don't know who, they flipped the image, they added a computer to the table, and that is basically the image you post like as a quote retweet to like a Megan McArdle article or something like that.
Yes. It's just they're sort of like slightly queasy and sickened by what they're looking at.
Yeah, just adding a computer to a Simpsons shot works so well as a meme too. Yeah, every time.
And Internet Detectives actually tracked this down because I posted about it yesterday. People have found out that is actually the computer on Lisa's table from Guess Who's Coming to Criticize Dinner, which is like 10 years after this.
Wow.
So yeah.
Man. That's nice.
Yeah.
Man, that's impressive. I also just love, the monkey paw is left with like so little options. It's just like, fine, all right, it's a dry sandwich. Like I can't. I just love Homer's demand of like, I don't want to turn into a turkey myself. Like none of this. But yeah, so the paw is dead, but this is when Homer is going to throw it out. And I just love how Ned is just like, hey, fellow slaver, is that one of those monkey paw dealies that'll let you wish for things? Just instantly knows what it is. And I love how the paw just reloads. If you pass it to a new person, it reloads. But apparently it counts for like your whole family because it didn't change passing around within the family. But I guess if it's passed over to Ned, that's when it reloads. But and Ned has no irony. Like his are just what he wishes. Like he gets, and just the shot of him wishing that Mo could get rid of the aliens and then just Mo running back with a board with a nail in it. Like that's so good.
It feels like they didn't have dialogue for that scene, so they put in some real like Popeye dialogue. That's why Mo's like, enslave humanity, will ya?
Yes.
It feels like a real like Popeye dub.
And again, I love Kang Yakoto's like Kang doing the speech of that. It's like the end of a sci-fi film, but he's gotten the wrong moral of like, soon there'll be a bigger board and a bigger nail that will destroy them all. Like, it's so good.
I guess my first wish is to get rid of those awful aliens.
He's got a board with a nail in it.
Enslave humanity, will ya?
Run, Kodos! Well, Kang, it seems the Earthlings won. Did they? That board with the nail in it may have defeated us. But the humans won't stop there. They'll make bigger boards and bigger nails. Soon they will make a board with a nail so big it will destroy them all.
Hey, Homer! This little thingamajig really works great.
Well, now that I've saved the Earth, maybe I ought to spruce up the old homestead.
I wish I had a monkey's paw.
And yes, this is where there's a big change from the boards. I don't know how far it got in animation because definitely the ending feels like they reworked final animation as well.
Yeah, I guess in this one, it's reused animation from. Do you know the episode, Henry? It's from, I forget which one it is, but I Wish I Had a Monkey's Paw is from another episode.
Yeah, I think
the animation.
I think it's from the Dead Putting Society. I think it's from that.
Okay,
but,
yeah, I think you're right. But in the original version of this, as soon as Ned gets his castle, Homer goes, "It's not fair! It's not fair!" And he runs over to Ned's castle, starts pounding on the door, and from inside the castle, you hear Ned saying, "Boy, it sure is hard to relax with all that banging outside," and he makes Homer disappear.
He wishes Homer away. Yes, yeah. Which it has more action, but I do kind of like that the scene ends with Homer saying, "I wish I had a monkey's paw." But at some point off screen, Lisa wakes up terrified, and we start the next scene with her asking if she can sleep in bed with Bart just to not be alone and scared. And Bart, of course, like any older brother, is like, "No, go away, I'm sleeping." And he needs to be bribed.
Oh, God, talk about more good on-point Foley. The sound of eating that brittle candy necklace candy and then pulling the disgusting band out of your mouth.
Yeah.
These can't be manufactured today, can they?
Boy, you would think not, right? But then again, I feel like if you go to the cheapest candy in the aisle, I bet you could find it still. Candy cigarettes, they're gone, but I bet these candy necklaces still exist somewhere. But yes, Bart proclaims, "Less talk, more sleep." Goes right back to sleep in his dream. And this, again, a great segment. Me and Bob did a lot of watching for this one.
We did.
To catch up, yeah.
So obviously a parody of the November 1961 episode of The Twilight Zone. It's a Good Life. So here's some scary math for all you folks out there. This episode of The Simpsons airs in October 91. That episode aired in November 61. We are now further past this episode than they were past the Twilight Zone episode. So that's some scary math for you. Yes. Sorry, it took my brain a while to process it. That's why I was pausing.
All right, I'm judging it based on the remake of this episode in the Twilight Zone movie directed by Joe Dante. So I'm going to give myself a little bit more breathing room here as far as the grim hand of fate and the inexorable march of time. leading us to the grave.
You know, that's only almost 40 years old now. That one. Yeah.
Hey, next year. Yeah, and Henry and I watched both of these. I guess we can give our thoughts on them. But yes, obviously, it goes without saying, the original Twilight Zone episode is so great, so haunting. Cloris Leachman is in it. She's amazing in it. That little fucker, you want to just smash his head in. You hope somebody does. It's the moral of the story. Smash the kid's head in, but nobody will do it.
No.
And it's just this greatest, sweatiest, most desperate people in this horrible situation. And the most haunting thing to me about that story is that nothing exists anymore outside of this group of people. They are just in hell.
Yeah.
In Ohio. It makes it worse.
Yeah, I know. They can never leave Ohio. They're just trapped there forever. I mean, Bill Mumy is perfect as this haunting, super spoiled child, and just every actor around him going like, and that's good. That's real good. Oh, it's good you did that. Oh, it's the best TV. We love it. Like, I think it's really a great argument for child-free by choice people, too, because it shows, you know, like, see, these kids, they fuck everything up.
It's a hashtag.
It's also sort of a terrifying portrait about how, like children, if you imbued them with, like, forget godlike power, just, like, any level of, like, adult power and authority, like, kids don't have morality. Like, morality is something that you need to, like, develop as you mature into adulthood. And, like, a kid with godlike powers would be like, you know, Satan incarnate.
Yeah, I when they talk about it, you never see it. It's always off screen, but when they're just like, oh, look at that, I made a 3-headed gopher. Well, I'm going to kill it now. And just everyone is so disturbed by it, but then they have to, I mean, it is just acting tour de force because it all is sold through the acting of just how terrified everyone is of him.
And the Dante segment, I like it for what it is, but it's got because Spielberg is on that project, it has a weird like Spielberg-y quality where the kid is too cute and he's misunderstood.
Yeah.
The ending I don't like as much, but I'm thinking maybe that woman had the right idea. Like, no, you ally with the evil child. You don't try to fight him. You join forces with the evil child.
Well, for me watching it, I think Dante imbued a little more like his Anthony is slightly older, like he's not a little kid, and I think there is a little like boyhood crush he has on Helen in that. I think there's a little to that she's maybe taking advantage of that to control this god, this horrifying god. But I mean, I definitely agree with that Anthony's view of like, yes, cartoons should be on in every room, and every room you walk into should have more cartoons on it, and
carnival food for dinner.
Carnival food for dinner, yeah. And he also like the villain from UHF, Ken McCarthy, who's in it. He's great. But of course, I wanted to rewatch it too because Nancy Cartwright, Bart herself, is the sister in it, and she is killed inside a cartoon. She is sent to live in a cartoon and is killed by it, which is pretty funny. But
that's very, very meta.
Yeah, and Cloris Leachman was on The Simpsons last season.
That's right.
So two connections there.
I mean, like rewatch it again if you haven't seen it in forever. Like I hadn't watched the original 61 version in forever. It's so good. Every actor in it is amazing. They're just covered in sweat. It's so great.
Yeah, and the parody of the intro is so perfect because the intro for the episode is about like 90 seconds long, almost too long, where it's just like the parody where Rod Serling is like, something weird is going on, something kind of fucked up. Yes. You wouldn't believe how weird and fucked up this is. And then would you believe it's a little boy?
I know.
That like it's the most perfect parody of that like over the top intro.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys clocked this or not, but the in the intro to Bart's Nightmare, like everyone's walking down the street and they're grimacing, they're like this like, you know, rictus smile as they're like, yes, this is good, we're happy, we're thinking good thoughts. And Jasper is the one who fucks up and he's like, I'm getting mighty sick of this, and then it just like bloop, and it morphs him into like some sort of dog man, like a dog with a man's face, which is, I mean, like 1000% a reference to the Philip Kaufman remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Oh yeah. Mike Reese on the commentary says there's almost too many parodies in this episode.
Yeah, man, I haven't watched that movie in full in forever. I pulled up that scene last night. I was like, oh yeah, it's really creepy that just this mask they put on a dog and the way the tongue just sticks out of the dog's mouth in that scene. Like,
it's such a disturbing scene in the Invasion of the Body Snatchers remake. It's so horrific.
During lockdown, a few times I have posted that Jasper, I'm getting mighty sick of this.
Yes, yeah. It's how I think, like, getting mighty sick of this, and there's another scene of this. It certainly reminds me of podcasting sometimes too, but or at least pandemic podcasting. But yeah, you're right, Bob. I'm so glad I rewatched the old Twilight Zone because they so perfectly parody the how full of himself Serling is of like, bet you didn't see that coming. It's a 6-year-old boy. That's right. Like so proud of himself. But yeah, so as the family eats together, Bart is torturing them. They're so great at playing off of him here.
Presented for your consideration, Springfield, an average little town with a not-so-average monster. The people of Springfield have to make sure they think happy thoughts and say happy things, because this particular monster can read minds, and if displeased, can turn people into grotesque walking terrors.
Happy thoughts. Boy, I'm getting mighty sick of this. Ruff, 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 wow, wow.
And did I mention that the monster is a 10-year-old boy? Quite a twist, huh? Bet you didn't see that one coming.
Good morning. Morning.
Good morning, dear.
Hiya, Bart. How's my boy?
Oh, man. Just like, yeah, I just love also Marge's line later after he transforms Snowball 2. She's just like, oh, good. The curtains are on fire. It's good that you made that awful thing, Bart. It's real good. Just so funny. And like that Snowball 2 also kind of turns into like the Duck Amuck transformation of Daffy. I also like that. Just design is great. I think Groening's big note on that was that he just didn't want it to look like Snowball was in pain. That was his big on the storyboards.
Yeah, Snowball is like breathing comfortably after that.
It's happy to be that way. Yeah. But and the entire family is tortured by Bart's godlike powers. He heads off and gets on the school bus. All the kids terrified of him on the school bus. Like, that's so great looking too. The way Sherry is the closest, and she gets out like and then runs to the back.
And I love the line with Otto where he's like move over, Otto, I'm driving the bus. He's like, oh, like, sorry, like I can't do that. And he's like, wait, yeah, you're the kid with all those gnarly powers.
Otto has forgotten. Yeah, and we're reaching the end of Otto. Like, Otto is functionally dead after the Otto show because they just ran out of Otto material. So it's fun to see him still in his bus function.
Yes, yeah.
Having conversations with Bart.
He's so stupid of a stoner. He forgets the god that lives in their town and gets whatever he wants. Like, he just completely but then once he agrees to it, I just love too that his death drive is just like, this is fun, isn't it? We're all gonna die, aren't we? Just so good. Also cut there was in the storyboards, there's a joke of Wendell puking over the bus seat, and Groening wrote, no, delete this. We're not doing a puke. We're not going all the way with a puke.
Wendell got to puke like twice in this entire series.
And so Bart heads to school. This is when, he realizes he loves school.
Well, class, the history of our country has been changed again to correspond with Bart's answers on yesterday's test. America was now discovered in 1942 by some guy, and our country isn't called America anymore. It's Bonerland.
Your attention, please. This is Principal Skinner. Bart, this one's for you. Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime gal. Send me a kiss by wire. Baby, my
Mouse Tavern. Hold on, I'll check. Hey, everybody. I'm a stupid moron with an ugly face and a big butt, and my butt smells, and I like to kiss my own butt. Wait a minute.
One more time. Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime gal. Double time now.
I love school.
You know, I always forget. So I loved Mo reading the most, tired, uncreative prank call joke in the world. I forget the actual joke is, hey, wait a minute. Yeah, he's not playing along with Bart.
He's not doing it for Bart's sake. He actually was fooled by it. Yeah, that's great.
It's just like I said, the master of the subverted expectation. You know, like if the joke is leading you in one very obvious direction, and then they juke left at the last moment in always very funny ways. I was thinking like the scene there where we just played it, where Skinner is serenading Bart over the school PA system with like a barbershop song. I mean, obviously not the first time Skinner does his barbershop thing, but I was just thinking like it's an odd choice, and it made me think of when we interviewed Bill Oakley on the show like a long time ago. It was a couple years back, and he said that when they were writing, like when he would write Homer or when they were writing any of the adults on the show, they were always writing it from the perspective of like their parents' generation. So there's always this these little touches of like old timey like references or just things that feel sort of out of place or like of a different era for like when it's supposed to be depicting, that like I always just sort of like take notice of now after he said that to us on the show.
Yeah, I always love that removal. Like Bill mentioned to we've had on our show too. He mentioned like when he did grandpa jokes, he was like basing it on his grandpa who was born like before 1900. Like that. Yeah. He's like, oh yeah, I can't. If I do grandpa jokes now, it should be about a grandpa who was born in like 1953. Like is that or like 39 maybe tops. It's too bad with the slide of time, like Grandpa in a current Simpsons episode, he can't be a World War II vet anymore, or he would have had to enlist when he was like 13 or something and lied. Like that's the best they can do for him to be 100. Yes, yeah,
yeah. I mean, they're retconning Homer and Marge, their life stories, but not
our age.
Yeah, to be our age, but not Grandpa, not yet. He's still, I think, canonically a World War II vet.
Yeah, I watched a new one last year, and he was still a World War II vet, impossibly. I mean, that also means he had Homer when he was like 65 or something, which, you know, is possible. There's old dads, but still. And he also, first time I noticed there, among the apples on Edna's desk is a dead mouse, which I guess that was Bart's gift to her. Yeah,
I noticed that for the first time, too. I wasn't sure if it was evidence of a cut joke or something or what, but yeah, there's a dead mouse on her desk with apples.
It was not in the storyboards, I'll say that. I also love Barney's like, happy thoughts, happy. It's really good. But we then head home, and it wouldn't be this era of The Simpsons if there wasn't a joke about gambling on football, which is what all the writers were doing on the show then.
I think every sport.
Yeah, every sport, yes. But I think
football
importantly, most of all, yeah.
And most importantly, betting on the spread.
Yes, yeah. It has to be the score. Lisa the Greek comes a little after this, but that's when all of us learned a lot of the rules about football gambling as children. Again, I have the full clipper because every second of this I love so much as Bart comes home.
Yeah, this is the best joke in this segment for sure.
Come on, make it, please.
I want to watch Krusty.
Shut up, boy. If they make this field goal, I win $50.
The kick is up. It's looking good. The ball is turning into a fat, bald guy. And it's no good. And you know what we say every time something strange happens? It's good that Bart did that. It's very good.
Well, it's still on. 346 consecutive hours. And all because of one little boy who won't let me stop! Anyway, now let's go over and see if Sideshow Mel has any more of those legal, over-the-counter wake-up drugs of his.
Oh, God damn it. I love every second of that.
Yeah,
so
and the Krusty scene was laid out by Brad Bird, still on the show. Like he liked to do a Krusty scene every now and then, which is why it looks kind of off-model but awesome.
No, yeah, they said that Brad Bird back then, he was very protective of the character, and so he's like, no, that's my yoink, that's my scene. I mean, every second of it is so good. You could tell he heard Dan's great performance of Krusty is just strung out and just like, who won't let me stop? And Brad Bird, if you see on the storyboards, you can pull them up. They look good, and it's a good disheveled Krusty, but none of those poses are in there. Like, that's what makes it, you know. Just
yeah, Krusty looks absolutely haggard.
The pain on his face that he's been awake for 2 weeks straight. That's what the math lines up to on that. Like, Bart won't even let him sleep when Bart sleeps. He's just like, nope, you have to always be on TV, never stop, and just his screaming, like, goddamn, and yeah, there were me and Bob were very productive podcasters during the pandemic, and there were a couple days that felt a little bit like that. Yeah. And also just to hear this commentator say the ball is turning into a fat bald guy. Whenever that happens, whenever something strange like that happens, it's good that Bart did that. It's very good. Like everybody in the world knows, oh, if a weird thing happened, Bart did it, and it's good that Bart did that.
I love how this all happens in the same scene. So Bart wishes Homer away to the football game. He watches the Krusty clip, and then a taxi drops Homer back off to rejoin the scene.
Yes, it's so good. Same with the way how he enters the room with just a smile on his face, and then in his head he's saying like, don't even think, he can read your thoughts, then bash him in the head, and then just Bart's pointed at him like, boom. That's, I guess in a way, Bart is defending himself in that very moment there. Instead of just, he's not punishing Homer for wanting to listen to a Perry Como record. You know, that's not why he's punishing him like Bill Mooney does in the original one. But yeah, Bart turns him into the Jack in the Box, which looks amazing. Like, it's so great. It's, you know, they did their best in 61 with it, but they kind of just have to, like, it's really just in silhouette, the man turning into the Jack in the Box.
The one shot I wish they would lose is the actual actor kind of bobbing back and forth for a few seconds. It's really lame, and I wish they would have cut that out. But I like how this episode picks up after the end of that one, where it's like, well, now hang out with the Jack in the Box.
Yes, yeah. What happens after that? Yeah.
Sort of like an early and then never again really recurring Simpsons character, the child psychologist. Was it like what's his name? Dr. Marvin Monroe. And then he's like a call-in, like a Frasier type character, but sort of like he was around a lot in the very early seasons of The Simpsons, and then he kind of drops off. But I do really also like another sort of like reading visual gag is that when they go to see him, he is certified by the Bonerland Medical Association. So now everything now has been retconned into Bart's reality, where America is now Bonerland.
It wasn't just in the classroom. Everybody accepted it as different. Yeah,
like Marvin Monroe, we've talked about him before, but he was a production episode 1 character. He launched with the show.
Yes, yeah.
And he was never popular.
Oh, and Will, you'll be, I think, impressed to know this, that originally they thought that character was going to be played by Tom Leykis, like the radio personality Tom Leykis.
What? Tom Leykis?
Yes, this is on the DVDs for season 1. They actually have the original table read script for that episode, and in the cast list it's Tom Leykis, and he was there for the table read, and I believe it was Jake Hogan in another interview said like, oh yeah, Tom Leykis got fired during the table read, like that we hated him so much they kicked him out during the table read.
Yeah, so. Wow.
Jesus, wow, was his personality was sort of toxic and annoying? You surprised me.
But also cut from the storyboards, when Bart says Lisa did it, they then would do a back and forth like, no, I didn't. Yes, I did. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. And then Bart uses his powers to then make her basically hypnotize and say, yes, I did, mother, and walks away. So they cut out him hurting Lisa. I think that was probably also like a Groening. Groening didn't write a note on there, but I was like, maybe they don't want to have Bart directly hurt Lisa. Maybe that's too dark for this episode. Not for later Treehouses, but for this one, yes. And yeah, I guess their point here too is like, well, if Anthony had just been given like proper therapy as a child, maybe these things wouldn't have happened with him.
You like attention, don't you, Bart?
Do I ever?
Well, we all do. The problem is that you don't care whether you get good attention for, say, getting high marks in school, or bad attention for, say, turning your father into a jack-in-the-box. Homer, I see you agree with my theory.
I'm not nodding. It's the air conditioning.
Well, that's too bad, because the attention the boy craves should be coming from you. I want you to spend some quality time with him. Get to know him. Maybe even love him.
Also, there's another great note on the storyboard. I showed you that too, Bob, that like when they were setting up this scene, it's very similar to a Butterfinger ad they did as well. And Matt Groening actually wrote on it like, make this look better than the Butterfinger ad. Like he thought, he thought the Butterfinger ad wasn't funny.
There was a Marvin Monroe Butterfinger ad, right?
Yes, yeah. That Bart is like diagnosed with Butterfinger obsession, and Marvin, he's really like all therapists. He's just lying to Bart to steal something from him, as all therapists do. Yeah, no, I can't.
Yeah, don't trust them. Don't trust them. There's another important lesson I learned early along in watching The Simpsons as a kid is never go to therapy, and I never have or will.
But the way he says, like, Homer, I see you agree with my theory. I'm not nodding. It's the air conditioning. Like, what a great line. Like,
he seems annoyed.
But then comes in, I swear, at this point, it already is like the second one of these in the series, right, Bob? And not the last either.
Yes. So you won't know this if you're not 60, but there was a very, very famous PSA on in the 60s and early 70s called Like Father, Like Son. And in the PSA, it's about like, what, a minute and a half long, Henry?
Yeah. Of just music. Like, I'm not going to, we can't play it because it's really just the music they parody in this sequence of Bart and Homer hanging out.
But in the PSA, it's like a small 3-year-old child hanging out with his dad, and he's like imitating the things his dad does. Like his dad is fixing a thing, he's picking up a little toy hammer. It's very adorable. But then his dad starts smoking a cigarette, and he pulls out a cigarette, and the voiceover says, like father, like son, think about it. So it's a PSA saying your kid will imitate you if you're smoking around him. That was seen a ton by boomers. I think it was This Is Your Brain on Drugs for the late 60s.
Yeah, I think so.
So the music in this montage is
this is your dad on cigs.
Exactly. Think about it. But yeah, instead of getting the music they used in the commercial, they tried to, but the guy wanted money. They did a parody of the music from that PSA from 1967, and I know a lot of boomers have seen that because it's also a joke on Mystery Science Theater.
So many times. Yeah. I know you're a Misty. You've had on Bill Corbett on your so many great episodes of Childhood.
Absolutely. Bill Corbett, one of the nicest gentlemen I've ever met. An absolute treasure, Bill Corbett.
And on Mystery Science Theater, if there was ever a scene where people were just like doing stuff to music over it and nothing happens for a while, that's when when Tom Servo would say, think about it, won't you? Like that every single time. But yeah, all their hanging out is cute. I like that it's just the most wholesome things that like Bart is like now he's going to church with him and
they're going to praying together. You know what? Once again, The Simpsons like the only American sitcom to acknowledge a religious life for its characters for the most part.
That scoffing mom in the room with me should have appreciated this scene.
Yeah.
But on the commentary, they say this church image is a parody of a Rockwell painting, but they name the wrong one. So listeners out there, which one is this? Because we're still in the era where you can parody famous paintings and photographs in 1991.
See, these comedy writers, they had it so easy because there was like 100 hours of things that everybody remembered because there was only like 3 networks.
Yeah, they were mining from when America was still a monoculture, and the shared cultural references could be satirized in a way that was like I said, like still remains timeless, but ultimately would land to a wide variety of viewers.
I was thinking that watching the '83 Twilight Zone movie too. That like the start of the movie is literally Dan Aykroyd and Albert Brooks just talking to each other, like, "Hey, remember old TV? Yeah, I remember that. Remember this theme song?" It's just and it really was just this dream of like these boomer directors who watched the Twilight Zone as kids and wished they're like, oh man, I remember those so well, but I wish they had better special effects. Like, and now I'm finally going to give the special effects these deserve. Like, they're no better than us with reliving their childhoods through content. They're not so special. But yeah, so Bart then learns his lesson, changes Homer back. I also love Homer tucking his son into bed with his mouth is very, but that sounded wrong when I said that there. But but yes, that like, I love you, Dad. I love you too, son. Again, talking about watching this with moms, my mom called it before when she saw the treacly ending happening. She said, "This is Bart's nightmare, and he's gonna hate it."
Oh, there we go. Very clever.
My mom caught it beforehand.
Quite an astute viewing, yeah.
but yes, Bart wakes up from his bad dream ending in our last clip of Act 2.
Good night, son.
Good night, Dad. These last few days have been really swell. I wish there was something I could do to repay you.
Well, if you wanted to, you could give me my body back.
You got it.
Hey, oh, thanks, boy.
I love you, Dad.
I love you, son.
Great scream. And the animation too, the wiggly mouth on his scream. Great stuff. But okay, the next scene starts. It's 4 a.m. Homer, I've now lived the life of Homer, or I did when I worked in an office job, like of just waking up at 4 a.m. and thinking like, I gotta get up and go back to work. The pain of that, or also just the fun math of anytime I wake up at night, I'm like, I know, like you just say, 4 hours, 30 minutes. Like I know exactly how much time.
I usually break it down into movies. It's like, that's one Lord of the Rings I can sleep until it's time to get up. But this segment,
Homer's nightmare does capture like the the nightmare of having a job. I don't know if you've had this experience where like you go to a job every day in an office and then you start remembering dreams that just take place in your office that like aren't nightmares, aren't especially good or bad dreams, but that your dream reality is just completely colonized by just your job. Like that's what you're dreaming. That's not even like an anxiety dream. You're just at work in the blissful hours of the day in which you are not conscious and like free from the clock. That is a truly horrific experience.
Yeah, your subconscious is on the clock, no matter what.
Even though Bob and me have been living the podcast life for a few years now, even then I feel like even a few months ago I had like I'm in the office. I'm just walking around that old office from like 10 years ago, and it won't go away. Like it's just always there haunting me. But man, yeah, Bob, this is one of the best looking things they ever did on the show, right?
I feel like this segment does not get enough credit because the first two are just so good. I feel like this one mostly gets forgotten because honestly the premise is not quite as good. It's about Homer becoming Frankenstein, but then he's Frankenstein for about 20 seconds.
Yes.
But at this point in the show, they're really in love with Burns and Smithers, which is why they are in the front seat in this segment. Jim Reardon says they wanted this to be their animation tour de force, and it is a great looking bit of both character animation and staging and background design. It's like a very beautiful segment. Not as funny as the first two, but still I think it does not get enough credit, this one.
Yeah, it's like a half-baked Frankenstein kind of thing. They're like, oh, what, you get some of the like, the classic Universal Frankenstein in there, but you also, I don't know, you get a little RoboCop mixed in as well, which is really a modern Frankenstein. Yeah. And by modern, I mean 36 years ago.
Well, Frankenstein was a modern Prometheus.
That's true.
Take that.
Yeah, that's true.
There we go. Oh, there we go.
I went to college.
But yes, Homer in his dream, it's not too different at first.
A couple of hours I have to get up and go to work. Gotta go to work.
Ooh, look at them, Smithers. Gold brickers, layabouts, slugger beds. Little do they realize their days of suckling at my teat are numbered.
Oh, in the meantime, sir, may I suggest a random firing just to throw the fear of God into them?
Very well. Eeny, meeny, miny. Ugh, him.
Attention, Homer Simpson. Attention, Homer Simpson. Wake up, Homer.
Hey, what? Huh? What?
You're fired.
For what?
For sleeping on the job.
How'd you know I was sleeping?
We've been watching you on the surveillance camera.
Camera? Don't!
Homer in the same shot, like the same static shot of him slowly finding the camera, like that's a really good like setup too. That looks great. And the Smithers is just so bloodless in this one too. He's just like, oh yeah, it's throw the fear of God into him, and just and also they love Burns talking. This is just like the Burns like layabouts,
slugabeds. I love the like the deep pulls on like once again like extremely antiquated vocabulary that Mr. Burns will come with. Mr. Burns and Grandpa, but like Mr. Burns especially will come out with.
And 30 years later, the dream of automating every job by a billionaire is it's Burns as bright now as it does then.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like, he's a proto Bezos figure, and he says the robot he wants to invent, he says, will be the greatest breakthrough in labor relations since the cat of nine tails.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the joke here is that like, oh, isn't Burns so evil? No one would be this evil. It's like, no, this barely even keeps up with current day evil, I think. But
he's not even killing any monkeys for this.
You know what? You're right. Yeah. What's all the monkey death here, man?
They're trying to steal a brain from like a fresh corpse. They're not just pulling it out of fucking chimp or something to put a microchip in it.
But yes, also he builds a robot that works. Dang it! Not like all these fake like convention presentation robots that Elon Musk builds. But yes, this little bit here of Burns talking about his need for a brain like is so good. Like that he's I'll just play it.
You know, Smithers, I've always despised the laziness of the common worker. Then I realized his spirit was willing, but the flesh was weak. So I replaced the flesh, which is weak, with steel, which is strong. Behold, the greatest breakthrough in labor relations since the Cat O' Tales.
How long till it's up and running, sir?
Keep your pants on, Smithers. First, we need a human brain.
I just love how needlessly Burns explains it. Like, he already said, like, yes, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. So I replace the flesh, which is weak. Like, just he has to just like so stupidly over-explain it. Like, and just how he puts his finger up, like, which is weak. If you remember what I just said, the flesh was weak. And yeah, the design on it, it's Bender pretty much. Like, it's like 80% Bender from Futurama.
It's a huge Bender.
Yes.
I didn't realize that, but yeah, you're right. It is a proto Bender.
And if you look at the storyboards, there's actually like two versions of him. That's there's a halfway robot version, but it's not all the way to the design. And then the other one is like, it's just a classic Cheney Frankenstein design of Homer, which I'm glad they went with, like, no, make it a cool robot. Like, why? I don't need to see Homer with bolts in his neck or whatever. Like, let's not do so direct of a Frankenstein thing. I kind of prefer the robot version.
Yeah, I guess it's more of a robot than Frankenstein, even though I've seen it a billion times. Like, oh yeah, he's a robot, but you barely see the Homer robot really do anything.
Yes, yeah. But yes, first we cut to Homer looking for a new job in the want ads. Needs to know how to use an ultrasonic lithotripter, which is a real medical device used to break up kidney stones with ultrasonic vibrations shot into your kidneys. So, which the commentary, even Al Jean's like, oh yeah, how hard can that be? Just point it at it and zap it. Like, that's all you got to do. But they didn't have Google back then. They knew it because they were putting their Harvard brains to work. Which
also, Mike Rick's dad is a doctor.
Oh,
so
that's true. Yes, yeah.
He could have called him up.
Yeah, Will, actually, as a quick aside, on Chapo, you guys have done so well talking about this, like, pipeline of Ivy League schools of Harvard and Yale to soft power places, like, say, the CIA or FBI or whatnot. But what do you think of, like, Harvard also being the breeding ground for so many of the classic Simpsons writers?
I mean, it's like you cannot have, everything is pregnant with its opposite in life. So, like, Harvard, an institution of great evil, feeding into true sources of satanic power in the world, like the CIA and the American government and, McKinsey. I mean, go down the list. Big Law, Jeffrey Epstein, Larry Summers. Go down the list here. But you cannot have an institution pregnant with such truly satanic evil without having its opposite in some way. And I think the truly redemptive part is all of the wonderful comedy writers. I mean, despite their association with true evil, I think have imbibed that vein of the American ruling class and channeled it into, as I said, the finest work of American popular culture ever produced in The Simpsons.
Maybe they were shown all the Illuminati stuff there, and they're like, nah, that sounds like it sucks. I want to do jokes.
The Harvard Lampoon was sort of like the Dark Souls bonfire within the institution.
Yes.
I think
have you guys been to the Lampoon Castle that they have there? It is very Dark Souls adjacent. I'll just say that.
I had forgotten it was a castle until recently. I was listening to it was Conan O'Brien interviewing John Mulaney, and Mulaney was asking him Harvard Lampoon questions, and Conan jokes about, like, yeah, I was in the castle and we did this, and I was like, oh, that funny Conan O'Brien joking about how opulent Harvard is that they were in a castle, and I was like, oh no, wait, no, I googled it. I was like, it's an actual castle, like it's on Harvard property. Yes, but Homer then takes the job of gravedigger, and we get another appearance of good old groundskeeper Willie. They're really in love with him in season 3. They introduced him late in season 2, and they're like, this guy's funny. We got to keep having him just yell at people.
In the script, he's gravedigger Willie.
Man, he can sometimes just be a gravedigger as the need approaches. He can just do it, but.
It's any kind of groundskeeping, because what is a gravedigger other than just a groundskeeper?
And of course, the second Willie walks away, Homer falls asleep just in the inside an open grave.
Open grave, yeah.
And so yes, Burns and Smithers are then skulking around the graveyard. I just love Burns and great animation, like the lighting of it, the creepiness of it, and just Burns saying, I feel like a kid in a candy candy store. Just so
Hello.
hello. What's this? He's just so happy. And this also.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say. I think this is the first time they do a joke about Homer smells horrible. I think this is the first time they do that joke. Which
he smells worse than the rendering plant.
Yes. Yeah. It's. I think Mike Reese even regretted that. And just like, did we have to? We make him a giant fat food monster. We also have to make him the smelliest man alive too, who smells worse than death. This is when as they're taking Homer away again. The acting on Burns here is so fucking funny.
What corpse should we unearth, sir?
I don't know. I feel like a kid in a candy store. Hello, an open grave. Smithers, get him out quickly. The stench is overpowering.
Wait a minute, sir. That's Homer Simpson. He wasn't exactly a model employee.
Well, who is a model employee?
Simpson will do just fine, sir. Did you hear that, sir?
No, I didn't. Who is it? Frankenstein? The Booger Man?
It's the man in the bag, sir. I think he's alive.
Oh. Bad corpse. Bad corpse. Stop scaring Smithers. Satisfied?
Thank you, sir.
Upon watching it this time, I thought, no, we hear Homer's death rattle. We hear his final breath.
Or at least not. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's his. Yeah, you're right. I just love how stupid they are. This is such just a comedy sketch of like
the man in the bag.
The man in the bag. So like he's clearly not dead. He's like, okay, bad corpse, and he just while saying bad corpse, he beats a man to death.
This is like unprecedented strength of Mr. Burns.
Yes,
he's so powerful in this segment.
Yeah.
Oh, guys, like bad.
He stoves Homer's skull in with a shovel.
God, it's so bad. And also just the look on his face as he's seeing the X-ray of Smithers' floating brain, like that's so good. And Smithers already can tell the end of this story. Like he's like, well, no, he's a bad employee. He should not be in your robot. But his own sense of self-preservation stops him from correcting that problem. We cut then to the sound. As a kid, it just really creeped me out to see Homer's head cut off and it just like emptily tumble to the ground and just roll around like an empty like
thermos lid. Yeah. That's what it reminded me of.
And then again, this is a little quick clip, but just Burns is so funny here.
Smithers, hand me that ice cream scoop.
Ice cream scoop?
Damn it, Smithers. This isn't rocket science, it's brain surgery. Hello. Look at me, I'm Davy Crockett.
Like this stuck with me too as a kid. Just how he rips the brain out of Homer's skull, and there's a bit of the spinal column still dangling.
Man, the way it like stretches and pops, like God, yeah. I mean, there's no putting that back, but yeah, that creeped me out as a kid. And then it leads to when we interviewed Jay Kogan, he still was proud of this joke. I think he said it was his favorite joke he ever pitched in an episode it doesn't have the writing credit for, which was putting the brain with the spinal cord on top of the head and saying, "Look at me, I'm Davy Crockett." And they say it on the commentary. It's one of everybody on the commentary's favorite moment of like when Jay Kogan acted that out. They were laughing for like minutes afterward, like literally rolling on the floor laughing at just how funny that idea was to them. I mean, his act out of pointing at his head while he has like, look at me, like
it's kind of like pirouetting, like to show off.
Yeah. Though, oh God, the way it's just pulled out like gum or whatever, just the stretch of it out of his brain. Ugh. We get a lengthy scene of them building everything. They take a break to eat pizza. In the original storyboards, Homer's in the background. His corpse is there at the table with him eating pizza. Matt Groening X through that. Did not like that joke. So then the robot comes alive. We have a big parody of the "It's alive" scene, but him saying that the guy at Radio Shack told him he was mad, but who's mad now? What a great line. The first person shot, maybe I just love RoboCop too much, but I think it feels like a reference to RoboCop.
Yeah, like the little flashes you see as like time is passing, and then when they finally wake him up, that's kind of, I think, what they're doing with this.
I think so. But yeah, and then the Homer bot comes alive, instantly finds donuts and smashes through a wall. Just like it's the way it like herky-jerkily moves around and smashes through the walls again. Like amazing animation too.
I really like this next mean-spirited scene. That's not necessary at all. I don't think it's in the storyboards even. I didn't see it in there.
I think Carson's drawn in there, but I don't think it's this bad of a joke.
It's like they're just checking in with the family, and Bart and Lisa are up watching Johnny Carson doing a terrible Karnak joke, and Marge has to remind them that Homer's been gone for 2 days. I always forget this scene is in here, but I mean, Gene and Reese worked on Carson and didn't have a good time. So there's a lot of Carson bashing until he came in and was the nicest guy ever.
Yes, yeah. That's what's really funny on the timeline of this is that I double checked this. So those storyboards, which means the script was even before that. The storyboards were April. It was May when Carson announced his retirement. So they didn't know to be respectful of Carson yet. Of just like, oh, the elder statesman of comedy, we all love him. It was right before that, so it's just like, boy, Carson like sucks, right? Like he's not funny. It's just this old man doing this old routine. David Letterman's way better. And by the time the episode comes out, now it's like, oh, it's respectathon Carson again. But I love the mean spiritedness. Like this isn't funny. Like they'll have a joke, I think, a few months after this of Bart and Lisa seeing again another bad Carson joke about Milli Vanilli impersonating a McNugget or whatever.
Yeah.
And they say, well, it's still great to be up.
Yeah.
Like, it's still fun to be up late.
I would also appreciate later in the run of the series when they shit all over Garrison Keillor, because my parents were big Prairie Home Companion fans, and I would often have to listen to that when we were like in a car driving someplace. So when the Simpsons finally trained their guns on Mr. Garrison Keillor and his Prairie Home Companion, I was thrilled by that.
It's really great to not have to hear about him ever again.
Yeah. You know what? He's gone. I feel like every now and then I feel like I read he's trying to make some comeback or whatever. But yeah, at least he's gone now. You know, my mom really didn't like when they made fun of Garrison Keillor as well. She was like, he's funny. Like they. It was I think actually even on the commentary for that episode, Matt Groening's like he disavows it. He's like, no, I like Garrison Keillor. This is too mean. He's funny. But I also love, it's almost like a Heckle and Jekyll kind of exchange, the way Lisa goes like, what do you know? She's right. Like just like that Lisa doesn't care that much. I think, what's that tell you about Homer's subconscious here too? He's like, oh, my kids wouldn't even care if I was gone for 2 days. But yes, we then cut to the abomination and Burns has learned his lesson.
Geraldo Rivera, Madonna, and a diseased yak.
Mom, what's wrong?
It's your father. He's missing.
Dad's missing? Get out of here.
He's been gone for 2 days.
What do you know? She's right.
It wasn't supposed to be this way. It was supposed to be a thing of beauty, not this abomination. Oh, Smithers, I was wrong to play God. Life is precious, not a thing to be toyed with. Now take out that brain and flush it down the toilet.
Sure, his family might appreciate it if you returned the brain to his body.
Oh, come on, it's 11:45. Oh, Smithers, when you look at me with those puppy dog eyes. All right.
You know what? There's continuity because they're watching The Tonight Show and then it's 11:45.
Hey, you're right. Wow.
Yeah, there you go.
It's weird. They cared that much.
I love the way Burns says, it's 11:45. Come on. Oh, like, again, great writing there of acting like, oh, I've learned my lesson. Life is precious. Anyway, take the brain out and flush it down the toilet. Just throwing out the entire lesson he learned from this.
And they're all over Wizard of Oz in this segment. So we have Burns humming If I Only Had a Brain while removing the brain.
Right.
And then he's sort of quoting the Wizard of Oz, kind of dissing the Tin Man when he's like ranting at the Homer robot.
Yes, yeah. In the Wizard's line to the Tin Man is clinking, clanking, clattering collection of caliginous junk, and Burns is clinking, clattering cacophony of caliginous cogs and camshafts.
See,
Boy,
it takes a voice actor to spit that
really
out.
Hard, yeah. Hey, you know, like, give me 2 more takes. I bet I can say. I don't want to waste Will's time trying to get it right, but I also love Homer's just ow, ow, ow. And they're like, oh, see, he's alive.
Stitching him.
And Smithers like, oh, Burns is going like, I guess I owe you a Coke. Like,
this is the first of 2 Coke bets in
Yes.
Treehouse of Horrors.
Yeah.
If I come back and the family's not slaughtered, I owe you a Coke.
I owe you a Coke. But also deleted scene, they use a trail of donuts to get the robot to come back into the room, which, they don't really need it. You can just cut to it's already out of it. But yes, then we come to our big ending, which I love every word Burns says in this lengthy ending too here.
Shattered organs, leaking vital fluids, a slight headache, loss of appetite. Smithers, I'm going to die.
Sir, is there nothing I can do?
Well, perhaps. Smithers, go to my office. In the third drawer of my desk are surgical tools and some ether.
Did you have a nightmare, homie?
No, Bart bit me.
Hey, man, you were crushing me. I tried to scream, but my mouth was full of flab.
Yeah, I gotta go shake the dew off the lily.
Perhaps you're wondering why you have two heads. Well, my body was crushed, so I had my head grafted onto your, shall we say, ample frame.
I didn't wake up. It's all a dream. It's just a dream.
Oh, that's right. It's all a dream. Or is it?
Next week on The Simpsons.
Don't forget, Dad. Tonight my class is having an all-you-can-eat spaghetti dinner.
Spaghetti.
But Homer, tonight's our reception for Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands.
Oh, I hate having two heads.
So, Will, have you seen The Thing with Two Heads?
Wait, no, I haven't. I've seen How to Get Ahead in Advertising, but not The Thing with Two Heads.
Thing with Two Heads, as the poster says, they transplanted a white bigot's head onto a Soul Brothers body. I have to say, the premise is much more interesting than the movie itself because they put Ray Milland's head on Rosie Greer's body, and that's the premise.
What a combo!
Okay.
It's a 90-minute movie that feels about 3 hours long because I swear to God, I've talked about this before on the podcast. There is a car chase scene in the movie. I think it's 17 minutes long.
Oh, geez.
And it's not an interesting car chase. They're just going over hills and things like that. It's not like a like Bullet or something like that. But it's not worth watching. But everyone has this image in their head of the giant Rosie Greer with an old white man's head on his shoulder.
Yeah, I mean, this whole sequence is great. Like Burns lightly kicking the robot and then it falling over on top of him so slowly that he can be told, like, run, sir. And he's like, like, just, God, it's so fucking good. And then also, what a great bit of overwriting in such a funny way that the scene would work of just like, and then it ends. But Burns has to say, like, I bet you're wondering what I'm doing on your head here. Well, I did, like, my body was crushed. And so, like, he has to over-explain it to such a degree. It's so fucking good.
And there was a different ending intended for this. It's in the storyboards, and I don't know what I prefer because I haven't heard the voice acting for the original ending, but in the original ending, there was going to be more of a back-and-forth argument between Burns and Homer about the changes Homer now needs to make now that Burns' head is on his body, and it would continue under the credits as well.
Yeah, that's funny, but I really love how they recast it as next week on The Simpsons, meaning that...
Yeah, it's just like the classic sitcom gag. Be like, oh, but the boss is coming over for dinner. It's just, how going to explain this
with the implication that from now on the Simpsons will have Homer with Burns' head on his shoulders. That's every future episode. It's not a dream. This is the setup for the show from now on.
And I guess according to Mike Reese, the original ending for this segment, which I guess was part of the table read script, was a parody of broadcast news. Right. But he said James L. Brooks didn't even get it, so we cut it. So I don't know what that would have been.
I watched some scenes from broadcast news recently. I haven't watched that in a while. It seems nice, but it's like I feel like Sorkin ripped off every moment of it for the newsroom, so I just can't not feel like newsroom related cringe when watching scenes of it, of just like, it's really just like complaining about the news and how the news needs to be better. It needs to not be so like light and silly or whatever, and have a guy as stupid as William Hurt playing it. I mean, it's good actors all over the place in it. I don't know. I should give it another full watch again, maybe. For being such a Simpsons fanatic, I've not watched many of James L. Brooks's directed films.
Same
all
here.
that much. Yeah. I have a real empty space for Spanglish.
No, how do you know?
Was the Jack Nicholson one As Good as It Gets?
That's it.
I was one that won all the Oscars. Yeah, As Good as It Gets. Yeah, I remember being bored stupid by that movie when I watched it.
But it's about New York literary world. Will, how could you be bored by that?
And
I mean, I don't know. I was probably a teenager when that movie came out. God, it was just like, I guess it was like, Jack being rude to people. That was kind of nice, but it was just that movie did not land for me. Maybe I should watch it again. It was just it was a movie. It was like a textbook example of a movie that like adults thought were funny, but then when I watched it, I felt like Bart watching fucking Prairie Home Companion on The Simpsons.
We talked about this before, but James L. Brooks got like all of his famous friends on the show, never Nicholson, and I'm sure it's because Nicholson always likes to get a bunch of money up front.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And Nicholson would have got a cut of all those bootleg Bart T-shirts if he'd ever done a voice on the show.
Exactly. Yeah. See, that is the Joker ruined him. Like the Joker, the Joker-fiedness for Jack Nicholson was him realizing like, oh, I can get merch money from all of these. I will never settle for not getting merch money ever again.
Yeah. Why would you?
They really wanted him. This came up in research in another podcast we did, but Disney really wanted him to play Hades in Hercules, which ended up being James Woods. And they thought like, oh man, we really got him. Like he sounds really down for this. Him and his kid. He was an old dad. He wanted to have kids. A movie his kids could watch. But then in the negotiation, he's like, well, and of course, just like with Joker, I'm getting a cut of these toy sales for Hades, right? And that's where
the mouse is not going to put up with that. They're not going to. Yeah, they will not abide that for even a second.
No way. No, if they give it to Jack, they got to give it to Danny DeVito. They got to give it to everybody. They're not going there.
I like the idea of Jack Nicholson in Kingdom Hearts, though, as Hades. And
that would be amazing.
We talked about how great the animation is in this third segment. They like it so much internally that a freeze frame of this act is running under the credits.
Yes, yeah. The tombstone shot. Yeah, it's such a great, gorgeous episode. Burns is posing like you did a tweet of it, Bob. Just so many just great Burns shots in here. I think Reardon and his team, Steve Moore, who'd go on to be a director in his own right, like he was co-storyboarder on this. They did just such a great job. Yeah, I think the references in this, I think this is them really figuring out what treehouses can be, and they'll get even more ambitious every year after this, but this is such a big level up from the previous one even, and just so wacky. Like once they free themselves of the setup of like, oh, this is the characters having a nightmare or telling a story, and they can just start from zero with every act of like, all right, this is just the story right here, that frees them up even more so after this.
Yeah, this one I like it more than the next year's, even though that one is very good. I think 4 and 5 are my favorites, but I think this one, I won't say it goes overlooked, maybe the third act does, but it does show you how much they've really improved since even the end of season 2. It's just so fast, so mean. The references are even more obscure and very self-referential too. So I feel like this is them just pushing it into overdrive that will continue throughout season 3, and I can't wait to keep doing more season 3. It's all up from here, folks. Will, any final thoughts on this episode?
Nothing. I think this is like the first proof of concept of Treehouse of Horror as like a standard like institution on The Simpsons. I think you can see just like you said, just how much they built on each one of these, and just how pushing the limit every year in one way creatively, in terms of the animation, in terms of the grossness or the horror of it, and just really just a prime example of The Simpsons at its absolute best. So I was really glad I got to do this one, and on Friday, recording this on Friday the 13th, So very perfect.
Yeah, extra spooky, man. Now, Will, this was so great having you. We've wanted to have you on for so long. It's been so awesome to have you on. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
And we all know about Chapo Trap House. Will, is there anything else you want to promote? Any other podcast appearances? Anything else you're working on right now?
Nothing. Just same old. Chapo Trap House, same trap channel, same trap time.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, at the time of this recording, you've been really helpful in these bleak times here, and this could work anytime. Especially your commentary on the Roe v. Wade situation has been very, very good. Same with, you've turned me. I wasn't an Avatar liker before. I didn't give it. You've given me new outlook on the Avatar film,
and I can't stop thinking about ape slurping.
Yes,
so
yeah.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for the kind words, and thank you again for having me on the show. It is always a joy to talk Simpsons.
Thanks again to Will Menaker for being on the podcast. Please check out Chapo Trap House. We love it. But as for us, if you want to check out more of what we do and get all these episodes 1 week at a time and ad-free, please go to patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons. Sign up for $5 a month. You get just that, but also access to our vast catalog of miniseries episodes, and also regular access to monthly episodes of both Talking Futurama and Talk King of the Hill, our Patreon-exclusive miniseries about Futurama and King of the Hill. Only behind the $5 paywall, only at patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons, and there is a $10 level as well. When you sign up for that, you get all the $5 stuff, of course, but also access to one extremely mega long podcast once a month, only for patrons of that level or higher. And what is that, Henry?
Bob is talking about the What? A cartoon movie podcast where we cover an animated feature film super duper in depth, just like we do The Simpsons. That often means we go over 5 or sometimes even 6 hours long about an animated feature film. Last month, we covered Toy Story 3, the Pixar trilogy closer that then wasn't. And then we also, this month, if you sign up at that $10 level, you'll get to hear us talk about The Little Mermaid, the 1989 film that started the Disney Renaissance. And there's a huge back catalog. I'm telling you, if you liked all this movie chat, I think you guys will really enjoy hearing us talking about Who Framed Roger Rabbit for 6.5 hours. Yes, really 6.5 hours.
We did it.
And we didn't waste a minute on it either. It's honestly, that was us keeping it brief with all we have to say about Roger Rabbit. But you can hear all of the back catalog over 3 years worth of What a Cartoon movies. I'd say over 250 hours of podcasts at your disposal if you check it all out at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons.
So as for me, I've been one of your hosts, Bob Mackey. You can find me on Twitter as Bob Servo, and my other podcast is Retronauts. That is a classic gaming podcast about old video games. Find that wherever you find podcasts, or go to patreon.com/Retronauts. Sign up there for 2 full-length bonus episodes every month. And Henry, how about you?
You can follow me on Twitter at HENEREYG. I'm always tweeting up a storm there about politics and cartoons as well. If you're following me and Bob, you should really be following the official Twitter account of this podcast,